Hi, Julien. Thank you so much for taking this interview. I'm Kayvon, founder of Vibes, and this is Julien, a great friend of mine who I met in a hackathon in U of T, and he's awesome. I'll let him introduce himself. And while introducing Julien, can you walk us through your background a bit? Um, who's Julien? What does he do for a living? And what makes him tick?
Sure, perfect. I guess I'll get started then. So, hi, I'm Julian. I'm a second year, or I just finished my second year at computer engineering at the University of Guelph. My sort of interest slash work has kind of delved into the idea of sort of artificial intelligence, sort of fine-tuning LLMs, sort of working on multimodal types of classifications. I wanted to see what I could kind of try with over the past few years. I worked with sort of image processing. I've tried audio processing as well. It's quite fun. And yeah, so I basically just tried having my interest in that and working on that. I also have an interest in robotics as well, sort of applying the programming fundamentals of this AI type stuff into more of a physical presence as well. In terms of sort of what I've been doing and what makes me tick, I last summer and this summer as well, I've had research positions in working with large language models for context retrieval, using them for evaluation on data sets for unanswerable questions, and then also running state-of-the-art paper paper implementations of context retrieval LLMs for fine tuning, along with sort of experimenting with a multitasking learning model where it would first classify sort of answerable questions or unanswerable questions, detect the type of unanswerability, and maybe also multitasking by generating an answerable alternative. So it's pretty interesting stuff. In terms of kind of what makes me tick, I would say I'm just generally I'm a very quick learner, or I try to be. I like jumping on things as soon as I hear about them and just trying with them, keep on experimenting until something ends up working. I just really like getting like getting on things as soon as I can. So that's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Can you tell us about two things? One, your age range, how you fit within your age range, in our own opinion, and then your hacker side, your maker creator side, like when it comes to I know that you've participated in many hackathons, for example. When it comes to taking the fruits of those creations and exposing them to the outside world, how does that go normally?
Sure, I can answer both those questions. So, first of all, my age range, I am currently 19 years old. I'm going to be turned 20 later this year, but I'm sort of in that young age range where I'm just trying to be ambitious, trying to do the best I can. I feel like that's sort of like sort of my edge among my age range. I just want to like keep on seeing these opportunities, jumping on them, trying to learn as much as I can. In terms of my sort of building history, project making history, whenever I make something like this on a hackathon, I'd like to or one thing I've done recently in most hackathons that I used to not do in the past is sort of record a demo video of kind of how it works so I can sort of present it on multiple facets. So for example, for the actual hackathon submission, I'd have a video of me going through it. There's also a way to easily communicate the sort of work I am capable of doing through other media such as LinkedIn, or if I need to send it to a recruiter, for example, as well, I could also just format that quite nicely. And then along with that, I also somewhat sometimes work on personal projects when I have the time. One thing I tried doing in the past was sort of creating a sort of RAG system for my personal website where I just put my resume in there, sort of kind of format it, ask a few questions. And I just kept on like trying to improve it bit by bit. I even like put it through one of those LLM APIs to make it look a bit nice. But it's just something where it's an ongoing project. I just want to keep going with it. And sort of with these projects, I just like implementing new technologies. Like I had a recent hackathon in Guelph a couple of weeks ago where I heard about this new framework called agent to agent stuff. I'm pretty sure Google mostly got started with that. So I wanted to see if I could try using it. So it's quite interesting. I put the best use into that. And interesting enough, a fellow student of mine saw my hackathon project and was pretty impressed with like what I was capable of doing. And he said, you could use this for this project as well. So at the same time, I kind of drafting or think about how can I improve on this? How can I put this into other projects? So it's very interesting, and it's sort of something where I want to continue like learning or implementing what I have from those projects. If I don't necessarily continue them from a hackathon, I at least want to take what's good from them and just continue with that. So it's just very interesting. It's just a constant state of I want to take the new technology, take what I have, just make some iteratively make something more interesting each time.
That's super cool. Specifically regarding having those audience with connecting with those students at those maker spaces hackathons, do you follow like a specific strategy? Like, do you try to say grow an audience, have some people come back to you? Do you specifically pursue this as a goal in life of having a community, even say?
Yeah, to some extent, I would say that's something that I continuously want to do. I want to make more connections, have sort of a network of people I can bounce ideas off of. That is certainly something I've improved in a lot over the last year or two. Because I remember I'd be super shy. For example, graduating from high school, first year university, I wasn't really like the most excited to talk to people because I was a bit more introverted. But I've sort of gone better at like putting myself out there a bit. Communicate with people, just making sure I have someone I could communicate, bounce ideas off of. If I need someone to work with for a certain task, it's always great to just have those doors open, for example. So that's just, in terms of my strategy specifically in hackathons, one thing I guess I would do is obviously forming new teams like around the hackathon is great because you meet a lot of new people. And even throughout judging, like seeing what other people do with their projects, asking them how they done it, and, and generally just yeah, walking around every once in a while or just seeing something that interests you, just going for it, asking. I think that's sort of the strategy I like to have in these sort of situations.
Right, and on the content creation of side of it, right? When you were talking about the project that was the result of the hackathon, or I've seen you create very elaborate LinkedIn posts that generate like a lot of interest. Is this by accident or is it a grand master plan?
I'd say it's might be somewhere in between right now. It's sort of that thing where it's good practice to like put myself out there and market myself, figure out how well I can sort of sell a product. But at the same time, sort of building this sort of like engagement or following, puts it in a way where if I do something really big in a few years or create something insanely crazy, I have that sort of backing to start with, and I have that experience to say, this is great, this is world changing. Now I know kind of how to make it appeal to audiences. Now I know how to make it kind of look a bit better to potential customers or people who are just interested in working on the team as well. So I I would say subconsciously is part of a master plan just to like each time I learn how to market myself and my product better. So I would say again, it's a bit of both.
Real cool. Um, I'm sorry. I'm gonna ask a very rude question, but don't please don't take me up on the rudeness of it. Do you care about going viral when posting?
Uh, it is honestly going viral is very nice when it happens. So yeah, I guess I care about it. The one I guess that's the reason why a lot of people post in the first place, just to get that engagement. The one thing it shows going viral, I guess, is or positively viral because you could also go negatively viral and that goes really bad. But no, going positively viral, it's very important. It shows that you created something or somehow you added value to other people to a point where they actually want to engage. So I do think like going viral in that context is just very nice and it's a great goal whenever you post or share an achievement. So I think that's yeah, it is nice to go viral positively.
Thank you for being so transparent about it because I found that sometimes people are saying like, no, they want to go viral. It just happens as a side effect. No, I do want to go viral and I execute on going viral. Um, but drilling down a bit on that, if you say, as I agree with you, that going viral is a means for something, not the destination. what is the thing that you want to achieve with going viral? If you want to talk specifically, I have that which I saw that happened to you for Cynthia. Like I have that LinkedIn post that's got everyone on LinkedIn resharing it and commenting on it. What's the outcome that you look forward to, and then the fruit that you take from that virality, essentially?
I guess a few of the things that could be taken from virality, I guess in the context of sort of a hackathon post would be, for example, there are obviously new people where this post shows up on their feed, they like it. These are people who the algorithm recommended this post to. So they're obviously interested in the same field. How many people like, maybe comment or engage, it sort of gives you opens more doors for other people, very talented people as well, I could sort of work with in the future. So it's very interesting. It brings sort of that connection side to things up very well. Along with that, I guess virality for these kind of posts as well. It sort of gives you a bit of a reputation. For example, if you keep on posting these hackathon projects and you keep on showing these results as like, oh, I made this, I use this, here's how it works. Like if you constantly show that you can deliver as well, it kind of gives you a bit of a reputation beforehand. So let's say, for example, you send your LinkedIn post to a recruiter and they kind of see your history of that. They kind of see this guy's dependable. He can sort of do this kind of job in a weekend at Hackathon, for example. So, is someone who I can kind of like trust to deliver even on tight deadlines and kind of do the best job. So in terms of connections and sort of prospects, along with reputation as well, just be like given the idea of adding value, being reliable, I think that's kind of where the virality comes with a post like that. In terms of like future virality, for example, when you're advertising a product or something, obviously, make getting viral is very important to the point where you want potential customers, you want potential clients, or even business partners as well. So you can generate enough revenue to grow the service, add more value, and obviously for yourself, just get enough cash flow for yourself to like be sort of live comfortably as well, and just be generally satisfied. And that kind of can drive you to further improve the product as well. So I just think virality, in the sense of that, is a means to sort of that end of just improvement, increase your reputation, and in general, just just generally just improving your or improving the sort of fruitfulness of life throughout that regard.
Just to essentially summarize and get your confirmation of the summary, I'm gonna be ChatGPT trying to summarize, but you be the RLHF and tell me if I'm doing my job correctly. Um, you essentially have a plan to monetize this investment later. So your aim is to turn these investments to a business down the line. Yep.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, eventually at some point, one of my big plans is to sort of just have this idea, or sort of have this great idea to build a business around, and just you know do well in that regard as well. And of course, like there's a bit of a backup option if that doesn't work. Like ob- obviously, if like that field isn't working temporarily, I want to be as flexible and learn as much as I can, so I can be dependable working working as like sort of an AI engineer or a robotics engineer, something like that, for a company that would pay decently, hopefully, to a point where I could sort of use some of that as investments towards a business in the future, if that is possible down the road. So it's kind of like whatever happens here with these posts going viral, all that, it's a means to an end of hopefully starting a business. If not, it just gives me enough skills to sort of learn. Because even when you're working as like a software engineer, AI engineer, robotics engineer, you still need to sell your ideas to someone. You need to sell your ideas to the team. You need to generally just make your voice heard and get those developments through. And sort of like these hackathons, and also advertising them through LinkedIn, it gives you the best of both worlds, because you could technically create the product, and along with that, as you technically create it, you also learn to sell your idea and make sure others are on board with it, and also be open to sort of getting that feedback and just incrementally improving it as well. So I think anything that happens, these skills are just very transferable. And going viral is a good sign of that feedback. And it also helps with your network as well, because as you have more people, maybe you can find someone to start a business opportunity with, or you can sell your idea to, so you can advertise your idea to someone who may be able to improve it as well. So it's overall just a bit of a win-win if you put in the effort to sort of make this virality if possible and just go from there. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
That's really cool. Um, let's talk about now the process, the time that you put into essentially, as you said, advertising or just expressing the work that you've done and making it, especially making it accessible, because you're a nerd and the stuff that you do are not things that people can grasp easily. So for you to craft them in a way that's like intuitive and like can connect with a more generic audience, I assume it's work. Is my assumption correct?
I would say so. It's definitely work to sort of summarize the idea in a way that as many people as possible can understand. It's something that sort of, the great entrepreneurs do as well. I remember a while ago I read about how Jeff Bezos was saying something about, for example, if you can't explain or summarize something in a way, for example, a 12-year-old can understand it, then there's really no, you're not doing a good job generally. So it's sort of that thing where, I want to put in work to make sure as many people understand as possible. And of course, one big thing as well, if you want your projects to be sort of reproduced, like these hackathon projects, for example, one thing that I will say I need to improve on in that regard is sort of the documentation or the specific documentation. Let's say I have a GitHub repository, having a good README, having a good setup. That is something that is a side of things where that would take a bit more work, and something that within or after hackathon hours would probably be nice to sort of improve upon. Because obviously the hackathon, you're trying to deliver the whole technical project itself. But if you have a bit more time, I think it's good to sort of just have sort of a setup. It shows that you are really dependable, or someone who can like explain it and give it out to a bunch of audiences. And also speaking from the research side of things, where I had to implement a lot of GitHub repositories, sometimes the README files were very unclear. So you end up having to scratch your own head and having to figure out workarounds, because there are a lot of caveats that they don't really mention. So having a bit more of a transparency with how things are ran, and that sort of README, I believe like that part takes a lot of work itself, and also just summarizing it, making it effective for people. That takes some effort, because you need to have that perspective from the other side. Be like, if I'm not in tech at all and I'm reading this, will I be able to understand it? So sort of having that perspective or thought, and even like recording the demo videos is just making sure like they know where I'm clicking, they know what this feature does, like how do I know it all connects together. So even recording those screen recordings for hackathon projects, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries, because I want to make sure I'm as clear as possible, even though for those hackathons I might be on like 5 or less hours of sleep. It's just something where it's like I need to be focused a bit. I need to make sure like it's still accessible and understandable and presentable.
Yeah. Would you say video has been the most effective medium of communication for you, and or if not, what has been? And do you like track this any success criteria for delivery? Do you in any way try to measure if the people on the other end are receiving the message that I'm sending?
To some extent, for receiving the message, I don't have any set in stone metrics in place. But one thing I did notice is like when I sort of did these video recordings of how it works and put them on YouTube, instead of just having the hackathon projects in dev posts, I would just it would be a lot easier to just sort of send to my friends, ask for feedback, and it usually be a lot more impressive, because they actually like can see what the product does. In my first few hackathons, it was just a few screenshots on dev posts in a GitHub repo. There's really no way to like show anyone that kind of stuff early on. So from there, I was just saying, oh, I made so and so. When you're describing it word of mouth, obviously you are missing a few details. Like they don't see what's actually happening. There are so many details that are kind of lost. So I think a video would be that sort of best media for communicating, let's say, online. However, one thing that's great about hackathons as well generally is that you have live demos. Like you actually show your product to people live. And if you're if cross your fingers, no technical mishaps happen. It usually is the best way to communicate how it works because you're right there live in front of people. If they have any questions, you kind of show them on the spot. However, because of those technical mishaps and maybe something happens in the moment, I feel like a pre-recorded video is usually the best way to kind of like it's good as a backup as well for this kind of stuff where it's like this is what I was intended to do, even if when I'm showing it, it's somehow didn't work. Like here's what the intention is. So it's really good just to have that as first of all a communication device, or a method of like communicating the idea between people, and second of all, kind of as a backup. So when you're sort of pitching or giving the idea, you can kind of show you could show them the video, or you could also just have that as well. Like you could email someone afterwards, say this is kind of what it was intended to do. So it's really helpful to have that sort of tool with you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's try to formalize it together. If you can mute. um, One, we talked about the toolbox that Julien has. The LinkedIn, the GitHub README, the dev posts, the YouTube video. So first, would you add to this tool set? Say, okay, Van, you're missing this three other tools that are in my toolbox that I use for essentially communicating to the outside world what it is that I built that are like in your daily.
So for the question is, you talk about more tools or
Yeah,
tools I just use per day?
your the screwdriver that you pick up for expression. For example, I don't know. Do you do stuff on Insta? I don't have you there.
Instagram more so, not so much. Like my main channel for posting this kind of stuff is generally LinkedIn, and obviously YouTube. My email has a YouTube account where I do post those videos. If something else happens, I might just post it there. If something goes viral, great. If not, it's mainly just there to sort of document what I have for the meantime. Those videos, they're also great links if I just need to send to someone where through LinkedIn, or if I'm like talking to a potential recruiter or client or prospect, if I'm gonna go through Gmail, if I want to send them a demo, send them the YouTube link is probably better. But in terms of main communication, I think the tools you mentioned are already mostly what I have. Instagram wouldn't be bad, to be honest. I think it'd be a great idea if I sort of, for example, make some sort of account to sort of advertise that side or the project side. I think it'd be good as well. I'm thinking of other cuts. I've also heard of Twitter. A friend in my university is actually telling me, Twitter, you can kind of sell yourself the way you can on LinkedIn, and sometimes it's a bit better. So I've been kind of starting with that a little bit. I do have an account to start with, but I haven't really been doing much on it. I think I just need to find a way to sort of have a bit more of a schedule to post this kind of stuff, because with starting this work, having school last semester, it's been a little bit busy for me to sort of have the time, sit down and like properly set everything up and organize it. But I think Twitter and Instagram would be sort of good further tools to sort of share what I have, and maybe even, for example, TikTok.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a TikTok?
I actually don't have TikTok yet, but if I do like need to advertise something, I'm pretty sure TikTok is a really great way to be viral, because I do put something on a For You page, even if you post something, or so I've heard. So it would be something to greatly consider. I actually do think maybe not a personal TikTok account, but a TikTok account for like a product or sort of a service, like to advertise that would probably be really good.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of continuing that formalization, so I'm hearing from you that your weapon of choice right now, like in your toolbox, in your channels, is currently number one LinkedIn between all the options.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, that's correct.
walk me through the process. Like, how do you go from like an idea of expressing the thing that you do to postable? How much time you allocate? How do you do things like A/B testing, or any before you post something on LinkedIn? Do you obsess over it? Essentially, is my question, and like try to fine tune it at that stage. Let's break down that stage of idea to postable. Then we'll go after.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I could start with that. So, in terms of like starting with an idea, I kind of have like a rough outline of my mind, kind of summarizing what I want to post about. For example, if it's a hackathon project, I would just say, okay, I want to describe what the hackathon project is. I want to tag who I worked with as a shout out. I want to shout out the organization that was behind it as well. I also, it's sort of like the who's involved, the what is even being posted about, where would be good. Just those questions: who, what, where, when, why, and even how. Just briefly mentioning what's going on. So first would be sort of answering those basic questions. Then I'll sort of just write out a quick draft of the post, like here's what I want to talk about. I'll look at like my summaries from dev posts, sort of like look at those as reference. Say, okay, this is a good summary. I kind of want to include most of that here. Just look at what else there's, because on dev posts for hackathons specifically, it's a bit easier because on dev posts you kind of talk about that stuff for the most part, and like they give you a bit of an outline. So from there, I kind of like dropped up that quick post, and once I have that sort of ready, I kind of like fine tune it a bit, sort of shorten it a bit, and then I also just throw it into something like ChatGPT as well to
Mhm.
kind of like make it a bit more engaging. Like, for example, ChatGPT, especially recently, they've been really crazy with like putting in emojis, and emojis like on LinkedIn they catch eyes really well. So it's sort of like that sort of thing where it's like where uh, ChatGPT, since it's been trained on so many of these kind of like patterns, it will be able to know like what best emoji to put and where to put it to sort of engage the audience a bit better. And I feel like this is sort of like the standard, or what a lot of people do, because the placement is a bit unique. They either do it themselves or they throw it into ChatGPT, but it's just very interesting to kind of see how, like, just a small difference, like adding those in, like, sort of engages you as well. And it also suggests a few hashtags as well. That kind of I guess my point of like showing up in like-minded people's feeds, because a hashtag shows that hey, I'm like this post is specific towards this sort of field that I want to work with. So from there, that's kind of what I want to further specify, and that's kind of the type of people who I want to like engage with, who I want to share this with. So that's kind of like my general idea of a post. It's a bit like basic right now. I feel like if I was running something a bit larger, I'd have to go through like some more intensive testing, maybe put it through like some screening with a few, or maybe a test screening with like a sample audience or something. That would be for a larger scale system. But for personal posts, I think this system is kind of good. Like start it off a bit, get your basics out of the way, the basic information, have it all there, then type in your quick summary, make it like short, point form. Don't make them read a whole giant paragraph. Try to like keep a balance there, and then from there, obviously optimize it with AI if you can. That's why these tools are here in the first place. They want to make your work a bit easier, and they want it's better to just sort of just fine tune and make it a bit more whole, I'd say.
Yeah. So if we can expand the usage of LLMs and ChatGPT specifically a bit. Um, so Sam Altman recently had an interview. He said people in their 30s use it as Google, but people in like Gen Z are using it as an operating system. It's like long running sessions. There are things that they track through days with like chat sessions or like LLM sessions. And there are weird tasks that they outsource to check back on it with agents. So that was his description, that young people use it as an operating system. First, do you as a young person use it as an operating system? And specifically in regards to what we just talked about, how do you use it as an operating system if you do?
I would say I use it more as an operating system in a more technical sense with these LLMs. For example, on VS Code, I had like they for GitHub Copilot, they kind of gave free access to the students, so I kind of signed up for that obviously because it's such a great opportunity. From there, I do kind of use it as operating system. I'll just ask it a few questions, and then it'll automatically like go through files, fix a few things if it needs to. I think Cursor is also pretty good at that, so I played around with that a bit. There were rate limits a bit, so it was a bit more unreliable. But it might be worth actually like subscribing to at some point. I have to continue experimenting with it a bit and seeing what else is out there. But I do kind of understand what it means by using it as like a whole operating
Yeah.
system where you kind of want to keep in track of this kind of stuff. Um, in terms of this sort of posting, I could kind of see how it would be used as an operating system. Maybe you have the LLM sort of fine tune it up and then automatically post it through an agentic manner, sort of agentic matter. If I guess that's sort of what I would try to do if I want to try a bit of a more long or large scale sort of system. For one personal post about hackathon a week, it might be a bit of an effort to sort of set up a whole agentic system
Mhm.
when I could sort of just throw into LLM, then produce the result and post it. But if it's something where, let's say it's a business and I want to advertise a few things, I think that agentic system would make a bit more sense where you'd sort of just give it the details, it would create its own posts and sort of just schedule times to post it. And one thing that could be great about this sort of agentic posting system is maybe it could also find out the sort of time that most people are on the site and sort of like get that engagement. So I'd just be an extra piece of or an extra piece of data that you could train it to sort of get a bit more robust with. So it's a huge opportunity. I think like the whole agentic operating system thing is very promising, and it's something that I would look towards to use in the future if I want to scale my stuff up a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, what's great about these LLMs recently though is they have some sort of memory, so
Mhm.
you can kind of ask it a few questions, you can come back to it. And I do ask it a lot, like these LLMs as well, like ChatGPT, a lot of technical questions, and then it kind of feeds back from before. So I have like these whole long chats about GPU memory or GPU memory efficiency, trying to like make that better. Because, for example, for my work, as I was training these large models, I ran into a lot of out of memory errors. I was trying to like keep track of all the changes I made to the code to make it run a bit more efficient. So I was telling chat like, oh, like I remember you told me this, but I need this as well. Like this is still giving me that, and I was actually able to somewhat like recall that stuff and generate these changes. And of course, in something like Copilot, these changes are made on the system. So I really like using that as well, and it's very convenient. So it's just good to use a wide variety of these kind of things. And yeah, as an operating system, I see the huge potential. It's something I want to play around with a bit more outside of my programming technical accolades, but it's I, I I do see the reason why a lot of Gen Z people use SOS, and it's very smart. Honestly, I like it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So when Sam says operating system, he means operating, as in moving hands and operating in the world, not task scheduling and blue screen of death. But yeah, you're totally right. Um, yeah. So well, you're already like, because you're so smart. You're already reading the solution from the interview. I'll bridge to it right away. But before that, before it's absolutely spoiled what it is, uh, I just want to have some quantitative measure, because this social posting of going viral, like a toolbox for, as a thinking of the solution as a toolbox for going viral, is the go-to market of this solution. It's not the thing itself. So it's like, what's the immediate use case that will people will pick up this tool for? It helps me go viral. I saw other friends pick it up and it managed their virality life, and I've seen others gone viral with it. That's what I'm going for. But then you will find different use cases. But I will spoil it in a minute. But before that, can you quantify for me, if you could, like, in a week, how if in a week of your hacker life, how many hours goes into expression and advertisements, or like just general sharing, teaching of side of your creations?
I would say in terms of how many hours a week, it depends on the specific task as well. For example, for hackathons, I'd probably spend around, let's say, 10 to 14 hours of the thing actually creating the project, depending on how long it is. And then I'd spend the last 2 or 3 hours just putting that together, advertising it, because there is a bit more of a strict deadline there. But for example, for my work, when I'm doing research, I do spend about a quarter of the time. Let's say it's 8 hours, 8 hours a day of work. That's pretty much what I have. And about 2 of those hours or 3 of those hours, it's just me sort of writing down what I've noted or writing down what I've noticed, writing down possible solutions, and communicating with my employers as well, telling them this is how the results are looking. Here's what I need. It's all about just sort of advertising yourself to that sense where it's like, this is what I need, this is that. So, like I said, then about like a quarter of that time is spent on that. Um, because a big thing, for example, even in AI research, it's about needing to know what resources you need and communicating with your team is where this is not enough. I think I need more to run what you're trying to get me to run. And along also something else that I've kind of worked on and work in terms of that that's took me a bit of time to set up was sort of make a repository of all my changes from the original paper's code and putting that on my own repository just to sort of make sure I document what I have and my employers can see it as well, just so we have a bit more of a system. And obviously, it's great as a backup as well. So that's sort of just express myself to a point is like, here's my changes, here's what changed. I wrote it down in this logging document. I have it on this repository. This is how I'm organizing it. So yeah, I'd say in terms of a times per week, maybe about a quarter, 20% of that time is spent on the non-technical stuff because it is pretty important. Even with making LinkedIn posts, for example, I don't just complete like write for 10 minutes and post, usually not. It would take me like sometimes half an hour a bit just to make sure like I got all the details right. If I find any images sent from the hackathon, it's just something where I kind of just want to make sure everything pieces together very nicely. I have all the resources I need. So that does take a bit of time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my best answer to that.
Nice. Very cool. All right. So with that section of the interview concluded, we can get to spoilers. Spoiler alert. Solution follows. Okay. The thing we're thinking to build at Vibes is we want to create the flow that we developers get as vibe coding. We want to take that flow of work and make it a mobile app, an everyday app. So what we do with vibe coding, like you and I did in the hackathon, was we have these iterative prompts. It's like a single prompt, like it's like a chain of 100 prompts through a couple of days that we refine on. We would tell this AI, "Hey, you're stupid. Fix this. This is like," and then that's back and forth of it, and then we go even like edit the actual code that the LLM generates because we know how to. But what has some of the vibe coders have started to do is they don't even read the code because some of them don't know what the code is. So the idea is like remove the code, like the code view of it, just have these back and forths and bring it to a mobile app. So a mobile app that it's like a chat GPT. You have this chat view, but when you press send instead of a text wall, you get an asset generated in the middle. So you get this GIF that you generated, this video that you prompted for, whatever you're prompting for, you will get it as the answer. The answer is an asset, is an artifact. And then your following prompts are iterations. They are like Git commits, right? And then you improve that asset until you're satisfied with it. And then the other difference is the result. To be very specific about the initial version, the asset for the initial version is an HTML. It's going to be your prompting, and the end result is completely HTML with JavaScript. Can be 3JS in there, so it can be a game with buttons. But more importantly, we're working to add a microphone and camera input in that HTML. So the resulting app, say, if you would call it, will have, when you ship it, will have microphone and camera input that can direct the flow of the thing that you've created. So just for understandability, if it was a video and it was a podcast of two people talking, you could kick in the microphone and say, "Hey, you're both stupid. This topic is working like this," and the AIs will say, "Oh, that's a good, interesting point." So the flow of the content changes dynamically based on the input of the perceiver, right? So multimodal experiences are the output of this asset, and specifically positioning it as a creator tool, like we discussed at the beginning of the interview, is because we think it's a tool in the arsenal of creators that they haven't previously had. So you have had like a README for your repository. You've had like a video that's explanatory and it's very good. But with this, you can, for example, cook up a learning experience. Like follow this half an hour, customized for you, and then you will know how Julian's project work, and then you're an expert in it, right? And then the viral element of it is, since it's recording microphone and camera, at the end of it, it's gonna compile a 50-second video from this interaction of the user with it, and then give you that 50-second clip so you can upload on TikTok or on Instagram. But well, while you can do serious stuff like a professional project, you can also do like funny stuff. Like here's a boomer test. It takes 15 minutes and tells you if you as a Gen Z are actually a boomer inside. Then you talk with the thing and then it captures your facial expressions, and then the 15-second video, for example, can be very funny because LLM. And the most important thing is there's no editing, no nothing. It's all like you have this assistant, that this mobile app that you just prompted to get this experience. So this is the general solution. I've given a long rant about it. First, give me your uncensored, unfiltered take on how do you assess it as a professional in this domain.
It sounds. I really like the prospect of it. It sounds very interesting. I'm getting the idea. Tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, but it kind of gives off. So we kind of had vibe coding, but now it's kind of like vibe content creation. Am I right on that?
Yeah, that's the GTM. That's the hook to get people addicted to this new thing.
Yeah, because I think that would honestly automate a lot of stuff. Because I do hear online about everyone creating, oh, here's my automated TikTok business. Oh, here's how I automated this. So just having that sort of central platform, I feel like a lot of people would kind of be very interested in that sort of automated process. You just give an idea. And one thing that, so we have the artifact that's generated as well. If we can, if, as you mentioned, it's multimodal. So kind of if you can add a description or add up some other stuff to the response as well, I think that would be very helpful, or even like an automated upload if possible. If we kind of have that agentic access, if it's able to do that, I think that would make it very interesting and very useful for people.
Yeah, the agentic aspect of it is also a point. Like you have these uncooked ideas that you've spent like a bathroom break on a few prompts, and then you say, "Oh, for the next, spend $10 on it." To so you give it like a quota in dollars, like people do with Cloud Code, right? Like spend $10 on it and make it postable. I just had a bathroom break worth of time on for this, but next of it, up to you. Go crazy. Yeah. Do you think this solution is specifically, if we talk about it as a solution, is a solution to anything in your life, or is it a made up bullshit? And don't spare my feelings. I don't have much feelings.
I think it's sort of an automation type thing where it's kind of like, some people can be naturally lazy, this kind of stuff, me included sometimes, where it would just be really great to sort of just post that kind of stuff at the end, you know what I mean? Or just have something that automatically creates for you. So I do see the idea of it just automating a lot of stuff. Like it is a really good application of using AI in automation in terms of like a specific problem to solve. I guess it sort of solves the problem of a content creation idea to artifact. I and I'm not too sure about the specific market, but I do think that would be a pretty interesting problem to solve. It may not be a pressing problem, but it's just
If
if it's a
it
problem.
solved virality, would you be interested in it? Like if it shows promise that, oh, I used Vibes to do this content, and because Vibes at the end of it gives you a link that you share with your audience, right? and people did complete my experience, and it's gained me some eyeballs. Would that be specifically interesting to you?
I think so. Yeah, there's the idea that more people professionally in that market for content creation. I think if they're very interested, I think it'd be very big. Because personally, me, I sort of dabble in it to present my work, but I'm not really sort of an expert. I don't know 100% how the game works. So just the idea that sort of those people in the industry think that this is a good idea as well, kind of gets you a bit hooked on it as well. So I think that's a, a very interesting thing. And like I said, like sort of it solves the problem of kind of just idea to artifact as well. It's more of like an automation thing again. I just really like the idea of like kind of like we're automating the process, make it easier, and just going from there. So I think that's pretty solid.
Cool. So, as you pointed out, I've identified three verticals for this product, and I can focus on either or like just prune them and say we won't work on this, right? One is, as you said, is idea to content, like that the gap, bathroom break to something posted, and something good, something perfect that can go viral posted. That's one thing. The other one is like just the fact of virality. Like I don't give a damn about anything. I just want something that's has like 1,000 views when I post it on Instagram. Or the last aspect that I've not explored in previous interviews, but I think you'd be an ideal candidate is finding like-minded people to push an idea. So say I've prompted something that's just interested to Julian. Nobody, I don't know if anybody else is interested in a thing called Cynthia. Um, but if the active prompting it and creating an artifact from it also matches you with a Kayvon or another person like the other side of the world that's interested in the same idea space, would that aspect would be also be like a hook for you that, oh, just by prompting my intentions, my things that I like, I got connected to fellow like-minded people.
That would be a very interesting side of it and kind of look at it. So you can kind of just make that content idea prompt. Maybe you sort of match ideas with recent ideas. Maybe having that sense of recency where it's like you're both on the app right now. Here's someone else with a similar idea. Why not talking? You can kind of just give them their LinkedIn. I think that would be, or LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, whatever the case is. It's just it'd be very interesting. So it makes me think. So it's kind of combination of sort of vibe content creation plus say like a Tinder for
Yeah.
like-minded people. Yeah, yeah. I think that'd be pretty nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tinder for.
So if I just was giving you a choice, you get 10K followers on LinkedIn, or you get 20 people interested, very interested, like an expert in this thing that you've just been prompting. Which of the two would you take? The blue pill or red pill? 20 versus 10K followers.
Okay. So for the 20 people, like you mentioned, they're super versed in their field and they have great ideas, that kind of stuff. I feel like that would be a bit better because for example, most of my connections on LinkedIn are mostly fellow students, profs as well, and just other people who I've somewhat engaged with over different posts. They may not be in the same field. Having, for example, 20 people with the same goals as you, sort of you can kind of bounce ideas off of them, and it's sort of the idea of quality over quantity as well. You want you want people who can do who you can kind of work well with. So maybe having that sort of matching idea it does make a bit more sense in general.
That's really interesting and helpful. All right, let me take a quick look at my cheat sheet, see if we've drilled. Yeah, this is mostly the template that I had. Now, freeform. Do you anything that you think about this general things that we discussed, general theme of things that we discussed? Anything you want to ask me? You want to just tell me about this ideas we touched on?
Sure. So you mentioned this thing already kind of has a name, vibes, that kind of stuff, right? Uh, sort of. I'm just curious, what kind of stage is Vibes in that case? Just out of curiosity.
6 commits old. it can generate a snake. It's a React Native app that has like a prompt, and when you send, it can generate snake with 3JS.
It's a it's interesting. It's good for that sort of progress. I think it's something that we can kind of continue working on, which is interesting as well. So yeah, vibes. And again, I just really like the idea of this. So it is something I'm quite interested in working in. For example, what would be sort of the next steps after, say, we start working together, or is there gonna be a larger team? Are you gonna have like, or are you gonna sort of have a generate a plan to market it as we work on it? Or I'm just curious about
Well,
that kind of stuff.
I have a dream for it. I want this to be the non-asshole app on your phone that everyone uses, right? So you have like ChatGPT that you use daily, but you also swear at it and said, "Oh, corporate bullshit," right? You also have you for that reason you revert to other corporate bullshit like, "Oh, Gemini or Meta or Claude," right? You open those, but you constantly say, "Oh, I want this to be like, oh, this is the culmination of different tools. This is one endpoint that joins different creatives in the space. So on the back end of this app, there are 1,000 providers of Gen AI capabilities that are integrated in this. It's this one itself is open source. It has an open economy, and it's instead of like at Wikipedia, it's my palette, and this is what I paint with. This is how what I open for creativity, not for questions.
I like the idea, kind of like making that spin on just because I feel like sometimes like with ChatGPT, we're just giving it commands like do this, do that, do
Yeah.
that. No, it's for something where it's like, this is my idea. Let's see what we can go with it. Yeah, it's I kind of like the idea of like having that creative outlet because again, you come up with the idea, it comes up with something, and you can always critique it or improve it, or even like take that and make your own edits to it externally, put it back in. I think that'd be good. Like again, make your own edits. Maybe you have like a quick sketch, and maybe using that you can bring it to life. So
Yeah.
that is very interesting, and having that sort of like as you mentioned, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, I guess, in that
Yeah.
point where you have like everything
Yeah.
together. I do really like the prospect of that as well.
Yeah. Well, really cool. Do you like it enough to join me as a co-founder?
Sure, I don't mind.
Cool. So let's discuss more about that after the interview. Um,
Sure.
anything else you wanted on record?
Um, I think it's all good on my end. It sounds very interesting, and yeah,
Really
sounds
cool.
good.
Cool, man. So we will stop it here. And if I had follow up questions, can I bother you with asking them? And like maybe um, also if you know like a couple of people that we can interview to further validate our assumptions, would you be open to intro your young friends? You are my young friend. Like I am old myself.
Yeah, I could as well. Yeah, yeah. I'll see who's might be interested in working on something like that. So I think that's pretty cool. But it sounds very promising, and I'm curious to see where this goes. So thank you very much for taking the time to interview me for this.
Cheers, man. Let's pose for a picture. This will be the thumbnail. I don't edit this. I will just. Yeah. Okay. So this will be our thumbnail. Cheers. I'll stop it here.